We hailed the Royal Charter, to Bess we raised a toast. We filled the wooden stocks all day and fired the old hog roast. We rode the penny farthing while others rode the stag, and we bore the mare in a wooden chair while the bells of Corby rang.
The peal you're hearing is rung by our bell ringers at St John's Church and is a chord changes and plain hunt peal.
And soul by soul in silence, the shining bounds increase, and all the ways are gracious.
Being there on a significant community event with tons of people coming out at 6 o'clock in the morning to witness this spectacle was really a privilege.
We enjoin and command you and every one of you that you permit all and singular the men and tenants of the manor of Corby aforesaid to be quit from such toll, pannage, muirage and passage.
The charter is by Charles II, which is a version of the Elizabethan charter, originally in Latin, though I'm reading it in English, and it's for everybody to hear every 20 years.
The 2nd day of December in the 27th year of our reign.
With me on the steps is the Mayor of Corby and also the oldest living resident from the old village. So traditionally they have to be born in the village and remain within the confines of the village at the point of the Pole Fair.
I was a little bit scared when I was first lifted up in the chair, but then I thought, go for it, put my arms up in the air and went along with the people. It was great. Everybody was joining in the singing and banter, laughing and joking.
Being chaired for me felt awesome. It was a surreal experience, by the way. I was terrified, but still enjoyed the moment, absolutely.
So at dawn, we took June, the oldest resident, the rector of St John's Church, and the mayor all around the village in a kind of beating of the bounds tradition, and they're carried at shoulder height. And we had 12 volunteers in the morning who were going to each carry, and I had to manage lifting and taking down. It was really nice because we were having kind of dads pass over to sons. We were having people saying, oh, can I have a go? When I think back on the day, that's one of the bits I'm really proud of.
I am the first black mayor of Corby Town, so for me to just coincide with my mayoral post and the timing, it was awesome, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
It was absolutely a wonderful morning. Everybody enjoyed it. It was marvellous.
As we followed the sedan chairs and we reached the top of the jambe, there was a very short moment, 2 or 3 seconds, and it actually felt like 100 years ago. And I actually could feel the emotions of being in the same place, at the same time doing the same thing as I'd been doing 200 years ago. That for me was an amazing moment, and it will be my best memory of the Pole Fair.
We also had a teddy bears picnic, and we managed to produce a picnic for 400 children with free food, free apples, free drinks, free entertainment. They sat on blankets on the field. We were very fortunate that it was a nice day. The parents and the children are going to be there for the next one, and I hope that they'll remember a wonderful afternoon on the field, and people will talk about the Pole Fair and they'll go, oh yes, and maybe get involved.
Crash! Bang! My legs broke from the chair! Corby Silver Band was formed following the 1902 Pole Fair. It was decided that a group of local musicians should be created to perform at future events. The first Pole Fair that they performed at was the 1922 Pole Fair, making this year, 2022, the centenary.
One of the things we included this time were the floral arches at each of the entrances. They're there in all the old photographs, and the villagers made a big point of making those arches, decorating those arches, and they were very proud of them.
Native flowers for the archways were done by a lot of members at St John's Craft Club, as well as many other groups throughout town. It took us in several months in total. We used to spend our Tuesday evenings knitting flowers. I think we went home counting flowers rather than counting sheep.
I've never quilted in my life. So after many YouTube videos, books, talking to people, come February, we started cutting out the pieces of the quilt, which then culminated in 5 days, 4 of us together in a friend's house for 5 days, literally probably 14 hours a day, and for me, 2 nights all night to actually put the quilt together. It was an amazing experience, the best experience I think ever. We tried to get as much as we could of Corby into the quilt, so we wanted to represent history, cultures past and present. And I think we did that quite successfully. We managed to get the Highland Gathering in, we managed to get John Anderson in, we managed to get the football team, the rugby team, as much as we could think of. And it really was bringing together a group of people across Corby to actually do that. 5 o'clock on the morning of Pole Fair, I had a telephone call from one of the ladies, Pat Saxon, and her words were, "Friends for life."
So we had a walking procession this time, and it went really well. It was joyous, it was fun, it was loud. We had a little bit of the history at the front with our puppets.
But the one thing we wanted to do was pick some of the more prominent characters from Corby history. We had Queen Elizabeth I, we had Captain Pouch, the Newton Rebellion, 1607. John Anderson was a slave in the 1850s in Missouri in America. He escaped, and from there he was brought over to England and educated in the British school in Corby.
I was extra happy because so many people managed to join us. Romanian, Moldavians, Polish. There were so many of my friends, Slovakians, Germans. They came from many areas, not just the Corby.
I'm here to introduce for you some drama students from Corby Business Academy, along with Corby Business Academy, along with Her Royal Highness and some royal attendants as well. They are very honoured to be here to perform the pageant for you today. So if we could give them a big round of applause, it's the Corby Business Academy and Her Royal Highness.
The pageant is something that goes back to when it was a much smaller event within the village.
Here she comes! Such excitement! Children, make sure you spout about Cutsy. Villagers, where's the throne? Put it here, right in the centre. Make way for Queen Elizabeth I.
The school children recreate the rescuing of Queen Elizabeth I.
Please, Your Majesty, Your Most Royal Highness, take a seat.
Thank you, kind Rector. It has been a most eventful week. My Lady Helena here is still removing the mud from my skirts.
The pageant became very popular in the Tudor period, obviously from Henry VII onwards. By the time it gets to Elizabeth, of course, it was even more important because she just loved pageants.
I'd never heard of this place until the other night. Your Majesty and I get around. So, is this it? Where is everyone?
We're a very small village, there aren't many of us, and some of us are out fighting in your army.
So the pageant was a great feature of it, very important feature, especially in 1922, the 1922 Pole Fair, when the schools got involved, the hospitals got involved, everybody.
If it wasn't for the people of this little parish.
Corby may be small, but my debt is great.
You are too kind, Your Majesty.
So, in recognition of your loyalty to Her Majesty in a time of personal crisis, she bestows upon the people of Corby a royal charter to mark her visit.
It'll relieve us good folk of taxes and tolls. We won't be forced to build walls anymore.
Although I may need you to fight on my behalf from time to time.
And you can let your pigs roam free in Rockingham Forest and eat the acorns for free. Loyal tenants of Corby, your lives will simply be better. And you have an excuse for a big party every 20 years, with lots of bells ringing and Morris dancing.
And greasy poles to climb.
And stocks to put the naughty people in.
And acrobats and puppets.
And tug-of-wars to test our strength.
And stalls to sell our wares.
And dressing up for pageants to celebrate this great historic moment. Oh, I do enjoy a jolly good pageant. Sounds like such excellent fun, doesn't it?
When we do our next stick dance, if you could all shout bang when our sticks hit the floor, that would be fantastic.
Records of the Pole Fair show that Morris dancing has always been a feature, and it just seemed to be appropriate to continue the tradition. The tune is Just as the Tide Was Turning. The side is Braybrook Morris dancers from the nearby village of Braybrook. Back in the 13th century, Henry de Braybrook was granted a charter for a fair in Corby. The most important thing for me, the most enjoyable thing for me, was just being involved.
One of the things we had at the Pole Fair this year was the jousting. I remember it from 62, 82, 2002, so it's part of the day now. It took quite a lot of finding, and at Burley House we saw the Knights of Albion, and they were just so good, so we booked them for the day. everyone really enjoyed it, so I was really pleased with that part of the event.
Traditionally, if you don't pay your ticket to get into the fair, then you get slung over a stang, which we think is a Viking tradition. It's a long piece of wood, and then you're carried to the nearest stocks and locked in there until someone can pay your fare, and then you'll be let out. This year, we weren't able to carry members of the public. That was one of the things that the health and safety consultant immediately said just wasn't going to be possible.
Cheer, boys, cheer.
Pay your entry.
Yes. Pay your
Good,
entry.
that's what we like to hear.
So what we did was we recruited Tim Casson and friends, and they devised a performance that would just recreate some of those essential elements.
The North Stang is a terrible thing. It's for oath breakers and cheats, people without honour. If you break your word, then you are forced to ride on a pole with your face facing the horse's arse. It is not a position any Viking man wants to be in. We came to England in 865. I arrived in Corby in 866, in the spring. Corby got its name from my Lord Corey. We settled here. He owns the land, buys his settlement, so Corby. If you look round the village, you will see everywhere something is being made. The women over there are making cloth with the children. Our shipbuilders are down by the water. Our skills are passed down from mother to daughter, from father to son. We are the greatest craftsmen in the world, and it is why we are here. For too many years, there have been too many lies told. It's time to get the facts straight. We are great people. We are exploring people. We conquered the world. We conquered everything around us. But still lies are told. Lies about brutality and cruelty. But none of these things are true. We are loving people. Come and meet us. Children beating a Viking army. I've heard these lies, told by Saxon women, to cover up for the cowardice of their husbands. Nobody beats a Viking army. It's just fact. We have a long-term goal. So eventually you can come and visit us in a permanent village that will be forever Corby as it was.
Storytellers are another feature of the Corby Pole Fair because they can bring the history alive.
There's a story right now coming up from the stars. I'll pull it down.
No need to go far. This is a story about the weavers of this town. That was the sound.
You can read it in a book, but if you actually got it a live version of it, it's more meaningful.
It was the music of this town. It was the handloom weavers. They were in every home.
Weaving was a very important industry in the village from the mid-17th century. In fact, it was the main occupation throughout the 18th century.
It wasn't just the weavers who were needed. Everything needed to be sorted.
In the 1790s, it reached its peak, but it then went downhill because of the Industrial Revolution.
Carded, rowed, pulled and marketed.
The best part of that era was the late 18th century. So in Corby, for instance, we had 20% of the population, so something around 30 weavers out of a working population of maybe 60 or 70.
So everybody was busy and everyone had a shilling in their pocket.
Wages were 21 shillings a week, which in those days was a lot of money. This is the 18th century, late 18th century. That plummeted to 7 shillings by the time the crash happened with the Industrial Revolution. So the time you get to 1821, there was a lot of poverty in Corby, and by the next census, 1831, there was no weaving in Corby at all.
Să juca și la stânga și la dreapta, hai nu te lăsa. Ia să chiuim odată, uite așa, că frumos ne cântă muzica. Măi Vasile, hai la sârbă, haide să juca și la stânga și la dreapta, hai nu te lăsa. Ia să chiuim odată, uite așa, că frumos ne cântă muzica. Uite, uite la Vasile, șede lângă polul. Lasă-mă Vasile și nu, hai cu noi la joc. Uite, uite sărăcuțul, să nu mă lângă butoi. Bă Vasile, lasă genul, hai la joc cu noi, băi!
We were very lucky to have Tatiana performing a Romanian song for us. It sings about the happiness, getting everyone together in the horror, as we call it, the folk dance. It was an opportunity to be able to show our roots to everyone and to show that we actually care and we're all in this together, no matter our nationalities.
So traditionally at Pole Fair there is a greasy pole climbing competition and people compete to climb the pole. It's all greased and at the top they can win a ham, a joint of ham that's been placed there. This year, because it's been 20 years since the previous fair, we did have to make a lot of adaptations just because they're so hard to ensure. We did lots of things, we put lots of things in place. We had crash mats, we had waivers and everything you would kind of expect to try and make this happen, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that. So what we did instead was we put the pole up. We had a beautiful ornamental ham that was knitted for us by some local crafting groups so that no meat spoiled on the day, to pay tribute to that tradition.
The cardigans have left their mark in Corby. Probably the most notable way is through the name of the Cardigan Arms. The Cardigan Arms you see today is actually the second one. That pub was built in respect or recognition of the Cardigans owning most of the land. So it's the Brudenell family, same as the Charge of the Light Brigade family. They owned most of Corby right up until the 20th century. The Charge of the Light Brigade was made famous by Alfred Lord Tennyson when he wrote his poem.
There was the Heavy Brigade, and there in their blue coats there was the Light Brigade. That's where Will, her husband, and the boys from the tent would be. She couldn't pick them out from this hat. But this was a battle. It was so quiet, she'd seen better punch-ups at Royal Charter Fair Day.
Now what makes it notorious for Corby or for the Brudenells was that most of the blame for the disaster of this battle, because it was a disaster, there was 600 or 700 men lost in the battle, and it was an embarrassment to Britain as a nation. Most of the blame fell on Thomas Brudenell.
The Russians had tried to break through the English lines and capture Balaclava. In doing so, they'd captured some English guns that were on the ridge between those two long valleys stretched out in front of them.
Thank you very much. Well, it's time to introduce to the stage some friends we've made in the last couple of months.
I think it's important for young people to be in traditions because in the later generation they would be able to carry it on. The best part was to sing my favourite song, Chasing Cars, with the Oakley Rangers.
All that I am, all that I ever was, is here in your perfect eyes. They're all I can see. I don't know where, confused about how as well. Just know that these things will never change for us at all. If I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world?
That's Misha. Thank you, Misha, very much.
It was extraordinary when I was researching the music for the Pole Fair to find that there wasn't a Pole Fair song. I couldn't believe that, although this event had been running possibly since 1585, didn't have a song. Together with the steering group, we brought in 2 professional musicians to work alongside local young people in Corby to develop that idea. And they subsequently came up with the song that we hear at the Pole Fair.
Thank you very much.
From Glasgow I have travelled, of hard times I can tell. I worked the molten steel that flowed from Corby's gates of hell. For 30 years the furnace burned till I saw the fires fade. And though hard times may come and go, in Corby I have stayed.
Mr. Biff is back.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a nice round of applause for band working hard for you this afternoon. Glencaddini's Tornadoes.
The Tornadoes, as well as being a covers band of 60s hits, had their own hit. In 1962, they were the first band in England to go to #1 in America with Telstar. And so it was fantastic to have that combination of a very successful band that was also a covers band, so would be very popular with the Corby audience. And it worked really well. Everybody seemed to enjoy the Tornadoes immensely, and that was why we did it.
Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.